Well, you know what?
Call to order the meeting of the April 17th, 2019 Frederick County Planning Commission. This time, if you would, join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Our first item is the adoption of the agenda. If there's no changes to the agenda, I'll take a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the March 16, 2019 meeting minutes. If there's no changes to those minutes, I'll motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, as we're going right through it, is committee reports, and I think we've gone down a few, but our first one will be from Frederick Water. Mr. Unger?
Yes, sir. We met on April 9th. The Water Board, Frederick Water Board, is going to advertise a public hearing to consider water and wastewater monthly service rates. The meeting will be May 21st at 5 o'clock, and is to accept public comments on the water and sewer rate increase. Under the proposed rate, the typical residential customer should see about a $4.50 increase per month for water and sewer bills. The higher consumer use as commercial and industrial users will realize a larger increase just because of the city of Winchester is increasing their water rates, and Carmoose is also doing the same thing. And so that's the reason they're going to have the increase if it goes down good. The customer base right now is 16,180 connections. I don't know if y'all pay attention to that or not, but that's increasing pretty good. It was 14,000 not too long ago. Monthly water production is 5.9 million gallon per day, which is about average for this time of year. The Deal plant in Stevens City, North and South quarries are continue to recharge. Even though we're pulling about 2.8 million gallon of water out of them a day, they're still raising, so that's a good thing, I guess, for the summer. We was purchasing about 2 million gallon a day off of the city, and now we're down to 1.3 million gallon per day, which is saving Frederick Waters a good bit of money because we do have some water right now. The average rainfall for March was 3.45 inches. They got average for 12 months at 5.21. I think that was last year. Most generally, we average about 2.5 inches of rain a month. So I think that's from last year's average because we don't usually run that high. That's all we got.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Unger. Our next is the liaison from Winchester Planning. Mr. Tagnesi.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. President. We met and we had three public hearings, and all three passed. One was the enlargement of signs for tourist destinations in the Missouri or the Shenandoah Valley. And then one was to do a conditional use permit for a ground floor residence on the mall in the backside. And then the last one is to amend and reenact Articles 11 and 12 of the zoning ordinance for permitted by right in an M1 zone, and it all passed.
All right. Thanks, sir. Nice to have you. Our last committee reports, our Board of Supervisor liaison, Ms. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for covering for me last meeting. So the Board of Supervisors met on April 10th. Things of note, first, we passed a tax increase for from 2.5% to 3.5% for the transient occupancy tax for hotels and that kind of thing. We also adopted the 2019-20 budget. The most notable thing is that we kept the 61-cent property tax, and we did not use and did not employ categorical funding for the school division. We also had two Planning Commission items. The first one was CPPA 02-18, the Brucetown Road Area Amendment, which we did vote to forward to a public hearing. Additionally, the CPPA 01-19 Blackburn Property Workforce Housing, we also voted to forward to a public hearing.
All right.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on our agenda, I believe that unless someone else has a report that I'm missing. Okay, thank you. Next item is citizen comments. This is a portion where anyone would like to come forward to speak to us about any items that's not on our agenda tonight. This is your time. Seeing no one rushing here, we'll move on. We'll close citizen comments and go to the next item on our agenda, which is a public hearing item. It's a conditional use permit number 03-19 for Connie Ann Moss. And due to my voice, I'll let Mr. Klein take it from there.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. This is conditional use permit 02-19 for Connie Ann Moss, which is an expansion of an existing dog kennel. The location of the property is at 4527 Valley Pike in Stevens City in our Bat Creek Magisterial District. The property is identified with parcel identification number 75-A-25, and the property is presently zoned RA, or rural areas. The current land use is residential. There's also a previously approved conditional use permit for a dog kennel and training facility, and the proposed use is an expanded dog kennel for up to 25 dogs. If I can direct your attention to the screen on your left, the subject property is outlined in blue. The property is fronted by Route 11 or Valley Pike, and the applicant, Connie Ann Moss, resides on the premise here. Their existing dog kennel operation is denoted at the rear of the property in this white building, and they previously utilized this building for dog training, which they hope to convert to the expanded dog kennel. Kennels are a permitted use in the RA Rural Areas Zoning District with an approved conditional use permit. Kennels are defined in our zoning ordinance as a place prepared to house, board, breed, handle, or otherwise keep or care for dogs for sale or in return for compensation. The applicants, the Mosses, had conditional use permit 0916 approved by the Board of Supervisors in September 2016, which enabled them to operate a kennel with 5 stalls for up to 10 dogs and a dog training facility. This conditional use permit proposes expanding only the existing kennel operation, allowing for the boarding of up to a total of 25 dogs. Again, this is up from the 10 dogs, which was previously approved with their previous conditional use permit. No new construction is approved as part of this application. They intend to use an existing structure on their property that was previously utilized for dog training, and the previous conditions approved with the conditional use permit 0916 remain unchanged. Again, directing your attention to the screen. On screen is a illustrative sketch plan provided by the applicant. For orientation, Valley Pike runs along the frontage of the property. Again, the applicant's existing home is located here. Their existing kennel operation is located towards the rear of the property, and they're intending to utilize an existing building that was previously used for dog training and convert that to kennels located here. The applicant also has a fenced yard which serves the dog boarding and dog training operations. Should the Planning Commission find this use to be appropriate, staff would recommend the following conditions. Again, the conditions provided are the existing conditions that are already assigned to this operation, and any new conditions are highlighted in yellow. The first condition is that all review agency comments shall be complied with at all times, that this conditional use permit is solely to enable the boarding and training of dogs on the property, that there will be no more than 3 employees with this conditional use permit, that all dogs would be confined indoors by 9 p.m., and dogs would be allowed outside and supervised on a leash after 9 p.m. as needed, that any proposed business sign would conform with our cottage occupation sign requirements not to exceed 4 square feet, and 5 feet in height, that the hours of operation are continue to be limited between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Condition number 7 is a new condition which would allow up to 25 dogs would be allowed to be boarded at any given time, and that any expansion or modification of this use would require the approval of a new conditional use permit. Following a public hearing this evening, staff is seeking a recommendation from the Planning Commission on this proposed conditional use permit to expand the existing dog kennel operation for up to 25 dogs and forward that recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and the applicant, Ms. Connie Ann Moss, is here this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any questions, Mr. Klein? Thank you. Would the applicant like to come? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson and members of the commission. My name is Connie Moss. I am at 4527 Valley Pike, Stevens City. And yes, I am here to request more dogs be allowed in our boarding kennels. I just made a few notes that I'd like to share with you really quickly. We have seen, operating under this current CUP, approximately 3 years now, a steady increase in our boarding kennels. We do offer training, however, it's sporadic. Income-wise, we've opted to suspend that training at this time and expand the boarding kennels if you will allow us to do so. We are turning away approximately 5 reservations a week because we are limited by the 10-dog head count. That's income we'd like to capture. We would really like to expand the restrictions on our reservations. We often get reservations for multi-dog households, 2 or more dogs in one kennel, which we have large kennels, we can do that. But that makes it really restricts us in making reservations. We'd like to ease up that restriction and allow for more multi-dog households to come in and board at the same time. It's so very common these days. People have more than one dog. We sometimes do have to leave a kennel empty because of the head count. We have gotten 3 dogs in one kennel on many occasions, more than once. That means we have to leave a kennel empty. That is also income we want to capture. We have no plans to build. We, both good and bad, do not really intend to hit a head count of 25 dogs very often. There's 2 of us, my husband and myself. And that would be a lot of dogs for 2 people. We expect that we will hit that head count on holidays. That's why we would like the expanded to 25 head count. Let's see, I think our boarding kennel is unique in the county. I really think it's unique in the state. I would like to say it's pretty special. We have exceedingly large kennels, very large kennels, indoor, outdoor kennels. We offer the dogs a 1 acre plus field size. They get exercised in there 3 times a day. We think that's important to the health of the dog and keeping them calm and stress-free. We really operate on the idea of reducing stress. We have aromatherapy. We play podcasts and audiobooks sometimes for the dogs, and we have television and music for the dogs. It's a very unique operation, but we're all about reducing the stress and making them comfortable while they're with us and making people feel good about leaving their dogs with us. So we think we're pretty unique for the area. And I think that pretty much concludes my comments.
All right, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for the applicant? I got one here, Mr. Morrison.
Notice in your documentation, you're talking about suspending training.
Yes.
You might want to revisit that language a little bit in that you may want to be able to reinitiate training more easily than you may have the way it's worded today.
That is correct. Actually was brought to my attention by somebody else that I should probably hold on to that. Currently, I am not offering training, but that may be a plan in the future, perhaps.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Kevin?
Unger.
I thought that was a very good remark you just made, and possibly if you don't want to have to revisit it, and it's up to the board, you know, I wouldn't have a problem if you added that on there as another condition. I'd like to see you leave it too, just so you don't have to come back to us if you want to do that. I wouldn't do away with it.
Let's,
Kind of says it and it doesn't say it.
what do we think? Mr. Klein, to that request?
I actually did discuss that with the applicant, and we did leave that condition as part of their original approval, which Mr. Morrison, condition 2, continues to allow them to train in the future so they won't have to come back. So that's a very good point to bring up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. This time I'll open a public hearing. Anybody like to come forward and speak to this matter? Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Dana Newcomb, Gainsborough District. Just an observation, I hadn't planned on speaking here, but my wife and I have had dogs for years, and we have found that it's difficult to find reputable boarding facilities within the county. We currently leave our dogs with the veterinarian service up in Inwood when we leave. We've done that for years, but it was because it was the only creditable place we could find that was the nearest and most convenient to us. So I think this sounds like the expansion of a service that's probably much needed within the county.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And any questions?
If nobody has anything, Kevin, I'd like to make a recommendation of approval of conditional use permit number 0319 for Connie Ann Moss. I've heard nothing but good things about this, and, I think they're doing a very good service for the county, too.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. I'll start down here.
Yes. Dawson, yes. Dawson, yes.
Triplett, yes.
Morrison, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Votes yes.
Klein, yes.
Manuel, yes.
Ambrosi, yes.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So it's approved. It'll go to the Board of Supervisors for their May 8th, 2019 meeting. Thank you. Thank you for speaking. Thank you. There is no other items on our agenda tonight, but I will remind all of my commissioners that we do have a very loaded docket May 1 on, so be prepared. Could be a long night, but if nothing else is on from the side over here, we're good. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.